evening, guys. My name is Jake Taylor. A lot of you I know, and some of you I do not. But I just want to take a minute to pray. And, you know, like that song said, how marvelous and how wonderful is the love of our God. Amen. So, God, we just come to you, Lord, in awe of what you've done, God. In awe that while we were yet sinners, you sent your Son to die for us. God, that when we were once far off and we were enemies, God, that your word says we were sons of wrath, that you would love us enough to sacrifice your own Son. God, I pray that would sink in tonight. God, that we would understand that this God gave up divinity to come down and take our place and take the death that we deserved and be crucified so that we would be raised again. So, Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity. I pray that you would help me articulate well, God, that I would be able to hold my emotions back and Spirit, that you would move. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So, my name is Jake Taylor. I'm 24 years old. I've lived in the Valley for 4 or 5 years now. I'm married. I have 4 kids. So, this is supposed to be a young adult worship night, right? That's what I was told. I said, so young adults, right? So how many of you are single? Raise your hand. All right, now everybody take a peek around, because I know you wanted to. I know that you wanted to. So I come from a broken home. You know, my parents were divorced. I didn't know my dad for a while. I have my dad now. He's sitting right here.
Praise
you know,
God.
My mom was an IV meth addict. I met my dad actually because my mom went to prison for manufacturing methamphetamines, and I was in a foster home the first time that I remember actually meeting my dad. And then I just kind of bounced back and forth and back and forth. And you know, I was a decent kid, right? At first, and you know, and then I started to kind of see the world, you know, around me, and you know, as far as I knew at the time, you know, both my parents were atheists, had no faith. There was no, I didn't ever go to church. I didn't ever read the Word. I'd never been introduced to a Jesus, nothing like that. So I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol when I was 11, and you know, it started off just weed and pills and all those sorts of things, you know, skipping school to drink and do all that kind of stuff. And I also, every time I share my testimony, I share that I was sexually abused when I was 7 years old, you know, and a lot of men are afraid to share that, right? Like, God can't redeem that too, like it's just women, you know what I mean? But 1 in 5 men are sexually abused as a child, and so I had a lot of stuff, you know, I had a lot of baggage that I was trying to deal with, and I was just a kid, and I didn't have parents to help walk me through any of it, and you know, and so I diverted to drugs and alcohol and womanizing, and so at 11 years old, you know, like, you're in 6th grade, man, 6th grade, you know, and I'm sneaking out at night, and I'm drinking, and I'm doing all this stuff, and then I start getting caught, so I get put on probation, and then I'm in and out of juvie, everything like that, you know, and still really no father figure, because my dad was there, but he wasn't there, you know. He was an alcoholic and a rageaholic, and so even though I had a dad, it was still like I was just trying to figure out how to be a man by myself. Like, I was trying to figure out the ways of the world without really anybody showing me what it looks like to be a man, you know, to actually be a man. And so then I just kept going down that path, kept going down that path, and by the time I was 13 years old, I was an IV meth addict. I'd drawn this line in the sand, like, I'll never do that, but just one thing led to another, and I was presented with the opportunity, and so I went ahead and I did it. And so I'm going into, you know, 8th grade, junior high, addicted to meth. So, needless to say, I didn't graduate high school, because you can't be high all the time and go to school, because then you end up in jail because everybody knows you're high, right? So I dropped out of school, and I think I got my life figured out. Like, I think I'm just gonna sell drugs for the rest of my life, and I don't know. You know, whatever happens, happens. Like, I didn't have really any belief in God, other than I believed that there was a creator. Like, I didn't believe that we just happened to wind up here. You know, I believed in a creator, but that was the extent of God to me. Like, there was no personal relationship. There was no love of a God. Like, I didn't understand any of that. I didn't know any of that. So that's where I was. And when I was 16 years old, I had a girlfriend at the time, and she got pregnant, and so she calls me and she tells me, "You've got to turn yourself in. We can't raise a baby like this." And I was like, okay, so I did. I went and I turned myself in, and then after I was in jail for about 3 months, I got a phone call from my mom, and she had had an abortion while I was in jail. And so then I was just lost. I was like, now I'm in jail for no reason, because I thought I had a reason to get my life straightened out, you know. And then that was taken away, and I still don't know Jesus. I still don't know anything other than drugs and alcohol. And so I go to this rehab down in southern Idaho, in Idaho Falls, and while I'm down there, there's this girl that's in there with me, and she's like she just, I don't know, man, it's just a God thing. Like, she just singled me out, and she's like, "How can you not believe in God?" Because I had this idea in my head, like, the Bible was created to control man. Like, that's what I thought. Like, it was the government's way, keeping us from doing bad things or something. Like, that was my idea of it. And so, like, she sits down with me and she starts just chopping it up and going through the scriptures and really showing me. And people were telling me, like, if you really want to change your life, like, if you really want to see something different, this is the only way. And so and it was totally God pursuing me, right? Because that's what He does. Like, in your deepest, darkest, And the last time that I used meth, I've shared this with a lot of people in here, know this. The last time that I used meth, I was in a bathroom shooting up, and I'm sorry that there are kids here, but I gotta share it like it is. So I'm in the bathroom shooting up, and I didn't audibly hear God's voice, but in my heart I heard, "What you do in the dark will be brought to the light." Right? So I knew that even though I'm hiding in a bathroom behind a door, one day I was going to get found out, and I was going to have to answer for it, right? And so then I go to rehab, and then God starts really pursuing me and showing me His love, and people started explaining to me Jesus and what was done on the cross. And so I get out of rehab, and I get this job, and the foreman that I'm working for is a believer, right? Imagine that. And so every day I'm spending like 10 to 12 hours with this guy while he just drills me. Like, "So, do you believe in heaven?" "Yeah, sure, I believe in heaven." "How do you get to heaven?" "Well, you gotta be a good person." "Well, what's a good person?" And then, "Well, do you think you're a good person?" I'm like, "I never killed anybody." And he's like, "Okay, well, let me show you what the Word says." And so we'd sit down and we'd get in the Bible, and I just remember, like, I remember this day. It's like middle of summer. It's like 9 o'clock at night. We just got back into town from this job, and he's explaining to me the work of the cross and what Jesus did on the cross. And that's the only way that you can come before the King and be found righteous. Is if you surrender your life, you give up, and you give it all to Jesus, right? So he starts explaining this to me, and I just could feel it welling up inside me. And I was like, this is what I have to do. Like, I don't have a choice. This is it. And so I remember he's like, "Okay, well, pray with me. I'll pray with you if you want to pray." And I was like, okay. So I pray with him, and the whole time he's praying, right? And I'm repeating what he's saying, but in my head, I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Jesus, let this be real. Like, let this be more than words that I say with my mouth, but let this change the way that I walk. Like I don't want to be one of those people that says that I believe in Jesus, but you can't tell me the way I live. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that uses God as a crutch. So, God, I need this to bear fruit in my life." Like, I didn't obviously say bear fruit because I didn't know what that meant, but that was my heart. I was like, I don't want to just say words. Like, "God, if you're real, come change me." And He answered me, and it wasn't always pleasant. That when He prunes, it hurts. I've lost family for this faith. Like, I have brothers that don't talk to me. I have relationships that don't exist anymore. And they say, I kept hearing this statement when I was first saved, that salvation costs you nothing, but discipleship will cost you everything. And I understand the heart behind that, but it doesn't cost you anything that you were meant to hold on to. Discipleship will cost you, but it won't cost you anything that you were meant to hold on to, right? And that's what I've come to realize as I walk this out with God, is that everything that I give up, it was not good for me anyway. He doesn't ask me to obviously to give up my kids or my wife, or you know what I mean? Like it's always things that I'm holding on to or that I'm placing in front of him.
Amen.
And so where I'm at today is, I am blessed with opportunity to share my testimony. I get opportunities to preach the word. And who would have thought that a 13-year-old boy in a bathroom with a needle in his arm would be given the opportunity to stand up in front of people and share the transformation that God's brought in my life, right? But we do serve a relentless God. Like, He will pursue you through everything that you go through. Like, you're never so far away that He can't find you. I've backslidden, I've fallen, I relapsed, I've done it all. But when He says He will never leave nor forsake you, I promise you He means it. I promise you He means it. I promise. That's all. If you want to know more, come talk to me. I'll explain it in detail. Like, I've been through some stuff since I got saved. Like, I didn't just automatically give everything up and walk this out perfectly. But there's a sanctification process, and that's where I'm at, and that's where God has me. And so that's the thing that I really felt like God wanted me to share tonight, is that you're not too far. You haven't fallen so far away that He can't reach you. Like, there's no such thing. And so I just want you to be encouraged to know that you can't outrun God. You can't. I promise you. They can't just be there waiting, wherever you think you're going. So I just am honored and thank you guys for the opportunity to come share, the work that God's done in my life. And God bless.
When I heard that young man's testimony for the first time, it tore me up. Tell you what. Now we're going to go on and worship a little bit. And if you want to stand, stand. If you want to sit, sit.
Constant in the
love never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, holy love.
You know, before we move on, I want to give a hand to our percussion section. We've got Rick Brantner behind me on bass. And we've got Daniel